Imagine this, it's the 1980s and you're a young kid really wanting to learn how to play guitar, but your parents won't let you get that and you're stuck using a keyboard instead. Well, thankfully for you, there's so many different ways we can emulate the sound of a guitar, well, at least in an 80s context. So that's what we're going to learn in today's video. Number 1. I think this is one of the most overlooked aspects of writing synth guitar, and that is understanding how the actual guitar sounds and works when somebody is playing it versus other instruments. So many people think it's all in the synth patch, which is definitely important, but one of the most important things in my opinion is the actual playing. So for example, when we're playing a patch or a series of notes, we can give it so much more emotion. So we could play something really dry like. Or we could actually start to incorporate things like a guitar player would. Notice I'm playing very lightly. And then we can juxtapose it. So it's very important to start thinking about things like doing pitch bends. Are we going to bend into the next note? Or is the string already bent up and we're pulling down into our destination note? Are we doing a subtle bend, bumping it up and down to give it a certain feel? Or are we doing a sort of legato playing between different bends? Let's think more like a guitar player. Rather than playing everything so straight, we can do things like bends. There's two main ways, obviously, on guitar to do pitch bends. One of the first one is going to do something like bending up. Or we can do something of having the string already bent and then plucking it and then returning to our bass note. So. Additionally, the great thing about doing a pitch bend is that it doesn't always fit perfectly into like proper tuning, and because of that, it's what gives it a much more blues feel, because within blues music, it's much more in between the notes where most of that feeling exists. So your understanding of self-expression is really what is in between the notes that you're playing, rather than the specific notes themselves, though there's always give and take depending on so many circumstances. So really one of the most important parts of this is going to be your velocity and your phrasing, and this is what's going to get you most of the way there, whether you're using an FM sound or a velocity sensitive subtractive synth. It could be anything from a memory mode to pretty much anything. This is going to span across all different synths. In essence, what I want you to try is to give it some personality, mess around with the mod wheel and the pitch wheel, and really start to see what kind of phrasing you can come up with, because that's really where the magic will begin. Start simple with pentatonic scales and try to get really expressive within that realm. But then additionally, you could branch out into the major scale, and you can even start to try modal stuff. But really, I think what's important is to get that blues sort of phrasing down. Number 2, what kind of synthesizers are we going to use to actually create this synth lead? There's so many different styles and different types out there. So in this case, I'm doing a DX7 with one of the patches, which would be jazz guitar, and then I'm running it through some simple, very simple processing, especially for this video. So first things first, I'm running it through a cab emulator, and really it's not that important which one you use. Definitely if you want to mess around, go for it, but you don't have to spend so much time getting the perfect cabinet or whatever. It's really whatever you have on hand. We really just want to get that effect of a guitar cabinet. Taking a listen to the preset on its own without any processing, this is kind of what we get. Not bad, but once we actually incorporate the amp stimulation, suddenly. So that's the thing that is going to get you most of the way there, especially if we're using this preset. So just mess around. Don't go too heavy on the distortion for this if you don't want to. And there's definitely different types of emulations you can do if you want to do a fuzz pedal, or if you want to emulate sort of a rectified amp or a tube amp. It's really whatever. It's very nuanced changes at this point because it's not going to respond like a real guitar. So just really finding something that gets you in the ballpark. After that, I have it going through some chorus because that would be extremely common at the time. And there's different ways you can go about this. You could take the chorus and run it through the pedal before running it to the amp that was mic'd, or you can do it after. Usually I prefer to do it after so I can get some stereo effect, and you would definitely hear this so often at the time rather than sort of sending everything into an amp that you record. You kind of record from the amp, but then you apply some additional delay and effects on top of it so that you have a more clean palette to work with after the recording. So it's already coming together. Then the next thing we'd want to do is add some delay. And there's many different things we could do with our delay. We could do something like a tape delay, have chorus when it delays out. So this is another place where you can add tons of character and flavor. So now if we want to control the sound some more so it's not so ear-piercing when we play different note velocities, we can add a compressor on top of it and it'll even out our sound a bit more. Then I'm throwing some vintage verb on there to create some space with a medium-sized environment, so it sounds not too spacious but not too small either. Gives us a nice balance. Just one quick second. If you're enjoying the video, feel free to comment below. I'd love to know what you think. Throw me a like and also a subscribe if you want to see more of my content. And if you really want to support what I'm doing and enter the Sigma Chad tier, you can always follow and support me on Patreon or throw me a tip down below. Whatever works for you. No tip or just a tip. It's a matter of taste. Anyways. One of my favorite ways to get a good synth lead on a subtractive synth is to have two oscillators. Both are square waveforms, but one has a different pulse width than the other, and you slightly detune them. And when you do this, it gives a great sort of sound that resembles a guitar, especially as the string decays and it vibrates with other strings. So you can hear those waveforms interacting with each other, and it's going to be a matter of taste on where you want it to sit, but generally something more subtle is better for the most cases because when you add distortion and stuff like that on top of it, it's going to amplify that effect so much more. So you can see oscillator 1 and 2 are very similar, and we just have the pulse width adjusted for the second one. And then finally you can see there's some detuning in this oscillator section. And if we wanted to add more chaos, we can use some X modulation or cross modulation. Or if we want to sync both of the oscillators together, we can do something like that as well, and it changes the tonality a little bit. So one is going to sound more detuned and the other is more focused. So let's say if we keep the sync on, then we can go to our lead guitar. So one sounds a bit more focused and the other has a more biting feel as the oscillators intermodulate with each other. So for the rest of the sound design, we can keep it artificial by having infinite sustain. Or if we want to make it feel a bit more natural, we can give it some decay. So this way it emulates a more realistic sound.